U.S. tax demographics. Most Americans were shocked to learn that the U.S. has become a two-class society, half paying federal income taxes and half don't, says Phyllis Schlafly. Okay. Schlafly. Okay. Even worse is the reality that 40% of Americans receive federal government handouts of cash and valuable benefits. Those handouts are financed by the people who do pay federal income taxes. The Tax Foundation reports that 20% of Americans get 75% of their income from the federal government, and another 20% get 45% of their income from the government. Obama's stimulus law will add nearly $800 billion in new means-tested welfare spending over the next decade. That means $22,500 for every poor person in the U.S., which will cost over $10,000 for each family that pays federal income taxes. Obama's real goal is a permanent expansion of the welfare system, a society dependent on the government, socialism by any other name. In conclusion to this section, Justice John Marshall said, "The power to tax is the power to destroy," and Washington politicians seem hell-bent on proving him right. What is needed today in Washington and many other nations in the world is not tax increases, but spending cuts, a language the governments do not understand. Never has it been so urgent to vote the tax and spend rascals out of office as it will be in November 2010. Investors Business Daily says, whether it's Japan, the U.S., or Western Europe, nations today face a surprisingly similar litany of problems. Too much spending, too much welfare, too many taxes, too many regulations. These are the policies that have pushed the most economically successful nations in world history to the brink of financial ruin. The time to change them is now, before we all go over the edge. We're going to be going on to part 3, the forgotten states, guarantors of men. It has been well said, think in herds. It will be seen that they go mad in herds, while they only recover their serious senses slowly and one by one. That was Charles Mackay. There is no safety for honest men except by believing all possible evil of evil men. Edmund Burke. On a fine day in 1215 AD, in a meadow called Runnymede, a group of British barons met with the king of the realm, John by name, to sign a historic document called the Great Charter. It is better known by its Latin title, Magna Carta. Whatever you call it, it is in fact one of the most significant documents ever signed. In the words of Dick Howard in his book Magna Carta, Text and Commentary, much of what those rude, mostly unlettered, and generally selfish barons won for themselves that June day, they won for generations yet unborn. Is there room to hope that they won their victory for a new generation of Americans as well? This article was written in hope that there is. The significance of Magna Carta is that a group of lesser rulers was able to force a British king to give up many elements of what had often been arbitrary and despotic power. The king was forced by the terms of the charter to charge and bring to trial people who were arrested, the treasured rule of habeas corpus, so viciously under attack in America today. He had to ensure widows received their inheritance quickly. He was constrained in the number, kind, and extent of taxes he could collect. He was required to provide his people with justice through regularly sitting courts that judged on just criteria. He had to make punishments proportional to crimes, and many other such crucial reforms. Modern literature prefers to believe that King John was opposed most effectively by Robin Hood and a band of merry men. Americans in particular seem drawn to the story of the rugged individualist who rights all government wrongs, splits serial arrows in the target's eye, wins the princess fair with wit, flair, and savoir-faire, and always has mead aplenty for riotous parties and rich man's coin for the noble poor. In contrast to Errol Flynn, however, the true heroes of Runnymede were much more prosaic, much less altruistic, and far more helpful to us as an example today. For the magic is not in the man, it is in the mechanism. We don't need a swashbuckler in tights to dazzle our imaginations and lead us back to a 5-cent cup of coffee. We need strong subordinate leaders with means and interests to bring our own nefarious high governors to heel. Western history is replete with this lesson. We have no excuse for not knowing it. It's simple. Second-tier rulers are the best way to reverse. The people cannot, will not do it by themselves. An excellent example is the Holy Roman generally consisted of Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Northern Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium, Eastern France, and parts of other bordering modern nations. Toward the end of its nearly 1,000-year existence, 962 to 1806 AD, the empire was dominated by princes, several of whom were made electors. These electors choose a new emperor when the need arose, and could depose him as well. As a result, the empire developed strong resistance to despotism and was very free for its time. Empire under strongly from the Holy Roman Empire's system of electors when Frederick III, elector of Saint, protected him from the hopes of as a heretic who could be killed without consequence and who be aided with food or comfort. Under Frederick's protection, Luther translated the New Testament into German at Wartburg Castle. Later, John Calvin in Geneva, Switzerland, developed what has become known as the law of the lesser magistrate. He still have a responsibility to protect the people from the abuses of kings, and had better do so, or they will be in violation of God's ordinance. His historical undertaking was vast. He cited in support of his thesis past examples of this principle being used effectively, as when the ephors were set against the Spartan kings, or the tribunes of the people against the Roman consuls, or the demarchs against the Senate of the Athenians. John Knox in Scotland, the French Huguenots, the English Puritans, and the American colonists further developed this doctrine to understand that governors derive much of their authority from the consent of the governed. As such, when they break faith with those they govern, they can be removed. These Protestant bodies varied in their reliance on lesser magistrates, but the concept became strongly entrenched in the U.S. Constitution, which we'll explore in a moment. In the meantime, it beggars belief to see that the lessons of Magna Carta, the Reformation, and our own revolution have been so totally forgotten in the country in which these principles ought to have reached their greatest fulfillment. We have truly abandoned and forgotten the roots of our freedom. Let's look at how this situation came about. We'll pick this up with the next video. Peace out.